So welcome to the Prometheus Partners Built to Exit Masterclass series today, October the 9th. And today we're going to be talking about profit on paper, chaos and reality. Certainly what your financials are not telling you when you're looking at them. And so we're going to be diving deep into this topic today. As usual, there is just to remind everybody, there is a chat inside of Teams. If you have questions along the way, feel free to put your questions in the chat room, and I will see those. If you put them in there and we don't get a chance to address your questions, we certainly will go through in the recording and answer the questions. And when we send out the recording, they will be on there. So, but certainly if you have questions along the way, put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. So let's get kicked off here and talk a little bit about the wake up call. And talk a little bit about, first of all, what's going on in the exit planning environment and what do we see and continue to see to help educate every business owner to help them kind of move through the process. So first and foremost, if you're not aware of this, 79% of business owners plan to exit their business over the next 10 years, but 83% have no written plan, and that's a statistic that has been out by the Exit Planning Institute. Another one that came out from RVR Consulting Group said, even today, many business owners are unaware of the true value of their companies. But more importantly, here's what we see. They don't understand what factors help determine their value and which causes the wrong decisions under or over valuation. So, it's just kind of hard if we don't know what's driving the P&L and balance statement. There's things inside of the organization that will drive what's on the numbers for the P&L statement for the most part. So we'll talk a little bit about that over the course of today. So if you've been here before, most of you know who I am. My name is Vincent Mastrobito. I am the owner and founder of Prometheus Partners, founded almost 2 decades ago now. And we proudly help business owners transition their business and monetize the value of their organization. And over that span of time that we have been doing this, we have helped a number of organizations transition millions and millions of dollars of real equity value out of their business to put into for themselves to live on and to do the things that they want to do. And we're very happy that from our records that we track, 100% of the businesses that have transitioned under us are still in the communities in which they were founded, and that we feel that that's a great thing to do. Certainly we don't have any control over it's just happening that way, but we're proud to be part of that process in any way that we can. And that helps the communities to make sure that the revenue stays in those areas. So we're very proud of that. So let's dive in, talk a little bit about flying blind, certainly why numbers don't tell the whole story, and what are some of the things that we're really going to be looking at, right? So let's first take a look at your financials, right? Your P&L and your balance statement, right? I think we could all probably agree that those are backward looking. Those are what happened in the past, and not that they're not important, but because they are. And so when you look at your financial statements, we need to understand, why are the financial statements the way that they are? When you're looking at your gross profits, you got to be looking at your net profits, certainly your cost of goods and services. How do you compare to your overall benchmarks? And so you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to what's going on there. We also like to recommend to business owners that you should be doing at least a 3-year financial projection. Now, most business owners aren't always comfortable doing this. And I think what you can do is you can have your, whether you have a CFO, a bookkeeper, or even have your CPA help you, they can start to formulate some projections for you in for your business, and start taking a look over time as to what modifications that you can make based on sales, based on what you need to spend or what you thought you might spend versus what you did spend. And you can start to track this over a period of time just to see how closely you come to that. And you will find over a period of time that this is really a nice metric to track, and it helps you to make better decisions as you move forward. if you're looking to, every owner will transition out of their business at some point. It's going to happen. So whether this is going internally to your family, to your kids or someone else in your family, or you're looking to sell it to anyone outside, or let's just say a management buyout, which would be a internal key person that's not your family, everyone is going to be looking at how your financials help them to pay for everything. So whenever I get asked to say, well, how are they going to get lending on the company? I'm going to say, well, we are going to look at the financials, but we want to take a look at what's driving the financials and what can you discuss with whoever the buyer is to show and prove to them that what you've done in the past is actually sustainable when you get ready to move it forward. And that's where projections come in. That's where working on your business to make sure you have the efficiencies and the systems and processes put in there to make sure that what you have is sustainable and moving forward. And then what we're going to be taking a look at is how consistent and closely those numbers are, because that's going to help to do that over a period of time. Certainly, they're also going to be taking a look at your free cash flow and some of the things that are inside the business to make sure that this business actually can do what you say that it has done in the past. We also have experienced here, you can see in one of the bullet points there, the last one, most owners will overestimate what they feel the value of their business is, and some can get to 50% or more as far as what they feel the value of the organization really is. So I think it's important to try to stay realistic and really have conversations with your team that you have as a business owner, and really start talking to people about what's driving your P&L and balance statement, and what can I do to make sure that everything is prepared, certainly to keep your business moving now for as long as you're going to be working in it, but then also preparing it for that eventual transition as you get ready to go. So why businesses are really not ready to transition out? One is we usually have a market shift, which is about 12%. Another is about 6%, but really the most of it is going to be with cash flow. And so you can see the bullet point that I put up there. 72% of business owners, admit that their companies could not withstand 6 months of declining revenue without being in serious trouble. And you can see that came from the State of Small Business Cash Flow and Intuit QuickBooks. So we have to ask ourselves as a business owners, like, what are we doing to manage cash inside of the business? Certainly you have to be able to manage debt. You don't want to always keep running out and getting a line of credit, because if revenue is down, you certainly don't want to be taking on debt because there's no cash flow to pay that debt back. So we have to figure out, and you have to ask yourselves, if the economy shifts, or as the economy shifts, how are you going to be managing cash flow, and how does that flow through? So let me give you an example. Let's start with a family transition, because we do a lot of those inside or management buyouts, right? Where somebody internally in the company is buying it. You're usually financing this deal yourself. So you, the owner, are a big part of the bank, if not the full bank in this deal. So if there's not enough cash flow for 6 months, and your retirement is going to be dependent a large portion on the distributions from this buyout, that means that you're not going to be getting payments for potentially 6, 12, maybe even 18 to 24 months, because if they don't have the cash within a 6-month period, then they have to make enough cash to get back to a point where they can breathe and actually function. And then they can get back to maybe where they can start paying you more of what they really need to be paying you over a period of time. So managing cash flow and making sure that there's enough cash flow coming in on a regular basis to get through just about any economic condition is what an organization really needs to try to strive to get through and to be able to accomplish on a regular basis. So when we're taking a look at some of the financials we can see that the profits are there. We can see that we have positive books. We have clean financial reports. But when you have someone that's actually coming in to look at your organization, they see some of the risks, excuse me, they see some of the risks like customer concentration. We've talked about this before. They're going to see owner dependency. They're going to see different things like what's your volatility and how you manage cash? What is your free cash flow on a year-to-year basis? Do we have any key person dependency with employees that might be leaving over a period of time? So these can always be issues whether you're selling the business or not. It's just whether or not the business owner wants to admit to it and really look at the business to say, I need to address these issues and I need to move forward with them so that I can figure out how to fix them. So if you have customer concentration and you've been getting most of your business from one customer, and then for whatever reason, they either stop or significantly reduce their orders, now you don't have as much cash flow coming in. So you've got two choices that you can really do. You can wait and say, okay, well, I think they're going to start picking up, or maybe they told you they were going to pick up their sales down the road. Or two, you can start going out and diversifying your income streams and bringing in more clients that diversify your business from a cash flow perspective. I'll share a little story with you on that. Obviously, over my journey of being an exit advisor, I have seen quite a bit. But I have had a number of companies, but one in particular that they had one client that was probably 85% of their revenue. And they just for a long time, just because there was so much business coming in from them, that they wanted to just keep going and just, because their answers to me were like, well, Vince, this stuff just keeps coming to us. What are we supposed to do? And I said, well, keep taking the business, but don't you think maybe we should scale up a little bit or start looking at other areas? Even if we can dwindle that down 5 or 10% over the next 24 to 36 months, let's slowly chip away at it. I'm not suggesting that you get rid of the work. I'm suggesting that you add some to soften it out, because if and when they do stop, then what are you going to do? You're going to be, it's going to be a hot mess of where does the revenue come from? And so you have to consciously be looking at those things to make sure that you're honest with yourself and figuring out where else can I reduce some of this risk, right? Any key person, whether it's you, the owner, your operations manager, your main salesperson, if you have either one yourself as the owner or certainly a key employee, that if they were to leave, it would have a dramatic impact on the business, then you need to just make sure you're aware of it. And how are you going to handle it if something ever happened to those people? Because you can't, there are other people. You yourself as a business owner, when we talk about owner dependency, need to ask yourself a question to say, are the relationships we have with our customers dependent upon me to manage and reach out for the revenue for the organization? And if the answer to that question is yes, then it's dependent upon you. And that's what we call lack of transferability. So how difficult would it be for you to transition a new owner in, doesn't matter where they come from, and have them work with that client to be able to make sure that that revenue is going to continue to be inside of your company? And so there's been many cases documented where if you look at the financials, they look great. They're profitable. They have great free cash flow. They have great EBITDA, but the cash flow is directly tied to you, the owner. And if that owner leaves, the risk of that revenue continuing has been diminished drastically, so that either eliminates much of the value or significantly reduces it over a period of time. So you want to be working on these things so that you're not the one that always has to do the heavy lifting, as we call it, and that you have a team of people that are doing the work that needs to be done. So hopefully that helps gives you a little bit of idea of what we're trying to make our point here. So let's take a look at a few of the blind spots that can happen as you're kind of going through and really looking at your organization. So 20 to 30% cut for owner reliance. So if the business is really relying on you, the owner, you could have a reduction of 20 to 30% of the overall value of the company when you get ready to sell, especially to an outsider. Probably not going to have that much of an impact if it's going to your children. Probably not going to have that much of an impact at all, if any, if you're doing what's called a management buyout. But once you get beyond that and you're going to a strategic buyer, you're going to an investor, or you're going to a private equity scenario, if that's the case, then there would be a pretty significant slice if that's what's going on. Secondly, if you have customer concentration, right, huge risk, right? Both of these are big risks because again, if the customer leaves for whatever reason, now all the revenue is gone, or it's depleted down to next to nothing. And I know, especially like in the manufacturing world where we work heavily in, is you have to also diversify. Like if you're with GM or Chrysler or Ford, are you working with different divisions within there? And if you lost one piece of the business, can you make sure you can hold on to the other? And so tracking that business and where that business is coming from, to saying who's controlling that, so to speak, is important to understand and communicate when you're looking at selling an organization, and certainly preparing for it, because a buyer is going to ask you these questions. You know, when they first look at your financial statements and they look very, very profitable, they're going to keep the conversation going. But let's remember, we've had these discussions before in this Masterclass series, is once they get down to the due diligence of what they need to do, that's where the rubber hits the road, and they start looking at, how can I get this thing on sale, and what can I do to get it cheaper, right? So I want a certain price, but because of what's going on, I'm only going to offer X price. So you also will get a premium if you have reoccurring revenue. Now, we're going to be talking about reoccurring revenue in our December masterclass. So make sure that you sign up for that and be there. So we're going to be talking about reoccurring revenue, the different types of reoccurring revenue, and how you can view that. And so hopefully that will help. But when you have reoccurring revenue, then that actually gives you a boost in value over a period of time, because they have revenue that continues to come in constantly over and over again. So that's a good thing. And we'll go through that again in our December session. Erratic cash flow can obviously collapse a lot of deals, right? So if the cash flow is very inconsistent, unpredictable, we don't really know where it's coming from, it's somewhat haphazard, then this is going to cause some major issues, especially when you get to the due diligence piece of the transaction. You've got to make sure that you can prove and discuss any erratic cash flows that do happen, and what was the reason for it, and what have you done to mitigate or eliminate that risk. And so these are always important. Things are going to be wrong in the organization. Nothing is perfect, but the more prepared you are, and the more you understand how the business operates so that you can best explain it, is going to help you when you have a buyer that's asking you these questions. Because remember, it's going to get fairly personal at some point, and what they're going to do is, it may sound like they're insulting you. They're trying to dig in and really find out what is the problem. And one of the things that I believe I've mentioned this in one of our previous sessions, one of the things that does happen in transactions while they fall apart is because the owner doesn't give them all of the financial information that they're actually looking for, because they just don't produce those type of financial statements. They probably have the availability to do it, they're just not doing it. And so you have to have the financial system to do that. Certainly QuickBooks is a great one. There's a number of them out there that you can utilize, and you just need to leverage them. And if you're not aware of them, ask your bookkeeper, ask your CPA. That's what they're for. They can really help you kind of go through that. So I put an example up here just to kind of use as a discussion, or just to kind of illustrate. Is a $5 million business that was reduced down to about 3.8. So we've got a reduction of about what, $1.2 million, or a 24% reduction. If that were invested at 4% interest over 20 years, you're looking really at about a $2.6 million loss in value. So let's just take a 5-second silence, and I want you just to think about that. Is not preparing your organization, think about it, 1.2 million is a lot of money, but over a period of time, just at 4%, pretty easy to get 4%. That's over a $2.5 million mistake by not preparing your business correctly to get it to where you really want to go. And this could make a huge difference over a period of time of how much income you have to try to hit your retirement goal, to have enough money to live on. And even if you already have enough money to live on, you've just walked by $2.6 million in reality, and probably more than that, because in most cases, you'd probably get more than 4%, right? So these are important things to be making sure that you take a look at when you are getting ready for transition. Certainly, first and foremost is give yourself enough time to transition out. Number two, make sure that you are prepared, that you're prepared, the owner, and that the business is prepared for a transition, for a new owner to come in and run that organization. So profit equals sellability, right? So buyers pay a premium for businesses. They want cash flow. They want revenue stability. So they want to see how consistent is your revenue and how stable is it. So when you can show them things that you have strategic planning in place and that you've been executing the strategic planning, and that you've been hitting your metrics on a regular basis, when you're taking a look at what your sales projections are, and what your profit margins are, both gross and net profit margins, right? You got to take a look at both of them. How you're tracking and monitoring your cost of goods and benchmarking the key metrics in your industry. These are the things that when you have these in place and you can prove and show people that are interested in buying your organization, then that way the conversations go much smoother. You're more likely to get a much higher premium for the organization. You're going to have zero to very little earnout, and off you go down the road, and it works just so much better and smoother as you try to go through that process. So with that said, I want to just kind of open it up to see if we have any questions, and see if you want to ask me anything along with this topic. I'd be happy to answer them. I do have a QR code there. If you'd like to scan it and connect a little bit later, you're welcome to do that. So I'll just kind of wait and see if we have any questions along the way. In the meantime, while we're waiting on some questions, if there anybody who has any, if you'd like to take a look at what your business looks like, we do have a scorecard here, and about maximizing your business value. It's a free, very quick scorecard that you can scan the QR code and you can complete that, and then we'll mail it over to you, and then you can review that. And if you'd like to have discussions on it later, we certainly could have discussions on it. But it's a great tool to begin the process, to start to get a better picture, to say, hey, where am I, and how do I need to get to where I need to go, and kind of begin that roadmap to move you forward. So as I talked about at the beginning of our session here, we're going to have our next session in December, and the next one that we're going to be talking about is the subscription model, how reoccurring revenue multiplies your value. And we think this is another great discussion to have, and we'll be sending out some information on that very, very shortly, and you'll be able to register for that and get signed up. Some other information I'd like to share with you quickly is, starting in 2026, we've been doing these built to exit masterclasses every other month, and starting in 2026, we're very excited to say We're going to be doing them once a month starting in January of 2026. So we'll have a pretty good agenda laid out at the beginning of the year, and you'll be able to see what topics we're going to be talking about for the entire year. And so you can pre-register if you like, and you want to make sure your calendar's filled with what you want to have, and you can just put it on there. Or you can just register as they get emailed over to you. Also remember that we do record these sessions, so they will be on our YouTube and our website, so you can go back and you can review them. We'll email them over to you once we kind of get through the editing, which usually will be a day or so, and we'll send them out on an email, and then you can have those for your file, and you can review those and ask any questions if you have. But other than that, that kind of wraps up our session for today. I do appreciate you being here today. Hopefully you found some good value out of it. And got some good nuggets out of it to help you. If you have any questions along the way, certainly reach out and either email me or give me a call. I'll be happy to chat with you and answer any questions that we might have. And hope that you guys all have a great week. And we'll talk with you soon and see you in December. Have a great day.